In a quiet village surrounded by tall palm trees and red earth paths lived Obinna, a humble young man in his early 20s. He was known for his kindness and hard-working spirit. Each morning, he fetched water for his mother, helped her tend to the small farm behind their mud brick house, and later sold palm oil and vegetables at the local market. Obinna's life was simple, but it was filled with peace. He often sat under the shade of the old irako tree with friends, laughing, telling stories, and dreaming of one day leaving the village to start a small trading business in the city. His mother, Mama Ifioma, often looked at him with pride. Though their life was modest, she knew her son carried a special strength, one rooted in honesty and compassion. Obinna, however, saw himself as just an ordinary villager, with nothing more to offer than hard work and a good heart. Little did he know, destiny had already chosen a much greater path for him. One late afternoon, the sound of talking drums echoed across the village. Everyone gathered in the village square as three elders, dressed in traditional attire, walked slowly towards Obinna's home. Obinna and his mother rushed outside, surprised to see such important men standing at their doorstep. The eldest of them, with a gray beard and a staff in his hand, spoke with authority. "Obinna, son of a late chief Namdi, the time has come. You are the rightful heir to the community's leadership." The words fell heavily on Obinna's ears. He froze, his mouth slightly open, unable to speak. The small crowd that had followed the elders gasped in surprise. Some nodded with approval, but others whispered in doubt. How could this young, ordinary boy lead an entire community? His mother's eyes filled with tears. Pride and worry mixed on her face. She touched Obinna's shoulder gently, whispering, "My son, this is bigger than us. Destiny has called your name." For the first time, Obinna felt the weight of a future he never imagined. The news spread quickly across the village like wildfire. At the market, women whispered while arranging baskets of vegetables. Children ran around chanting, "Obinna is the new heir." Some neighbors congratulated his mother warmly, while others looked on with envy and suspicion. That evening, the elders gathered at Mama Ifioma's compound to explain the responsibilities awaiting Obinna. They told him of the legacy of his late father, Chief Namdi, and the traditions of leadership he was expected to uphold. Obinna sat quietly, his hands folded on his knees, as the voices of the elders filled the night. Every word they spoke felt heavy, pressing down on him. The young man who only dreamed of a simple business in the city was now being asked to carry the hopes of an entire community. When the meeting ended, Obinna lay awake on his mat, staring at the ceiling. His heart was restless. The life he knew had already begun to slip away. The days that followed were difficult for Obinna. Everywhere he went, people treated him differently. Some bowed in respect, while others mocked quietly, saying, "How can this poor boy lead us?" His friends who once laughed and played with him now grew distant. They no longer saw him as one of them, but as someone set apart by destiny. The simple peace Obinna once enjoyed seemed lost forever. One afternoon, Obinna walked alone to the edge of the river, his reflection staring back at him in the water. He felt torn between two worlds, the quiet, ordinary life he loved and the heavy crown that awaited him. With a deep sigh, he whispered to himself, "I never asked for this burden. How can I carry it?" But in the silence of the riverbank, no answer came, only the weight of his own thoughts. Soon, whispers turned into open words. In the market, some men shook their heads, saying, "How can a boy with no wealth and no experience lead us?" At the village square, a few elders murmured among themselves, questioning whether tradition had made a mistake. Even Obinna's childhood friends, who once sat with him under the irako tree, now mocked him. One laughed and said, "You a chief? You cannot even buy a new pair of sandals." Their words cut deep, leaving Obinna feeling smaller each day. He avoided the square, stayed away from gatherings, and carried his heavy thoughts in silence. Every voice of doubt around him began to echo inside his mind, until he started to question himself. Maybe they are right. Maybe I'm not meant for this. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Mama Ifioma found her son sitting quietly outside their house, his face heavy with sadness. She sat beside him and spoke gently. Obinna, do not let their words bury your spirit. Remember your father, Chief Nambi. He was not born great. He became great through wisdom and courage. You carry his blood, and you carry my prayers. Do not fear what is ahead. Her voice was steady, her eyes full of love. She reminded him that leadership was not about wealth or pride, but about serving with truth and fairness. Obinna listened, his heart softening with every word. He realized that his mother saw strength in him even when he could not see it himself. That night, for the first time in many days, he slept with a little peace in his heart. The elders soon began testing Obinna's ability to lead. They asked him to attend village meetings, where disputes about farmland, water rights, and trading paths were discussed. At first, he sat in silence, listening as the older men argued loudly. One day, a heated dispute broke out between two families over a piece of farmland. The elders turned to Obinna and said, "You are the heir. What will you decide?" His heart raced. Everyone's eyes were on him. After a long pause, he spoke calmly. He suggested that the land be shared fairly and both families should farm side by side. At first, there was murmuring, but gradually the voices grew quiet. The two families nodded, agreeing to his judgment. Though his hands trembled, Obinna realized something that day. Leadership was not about having all the answers, but about fairness and courage in difficult moments. Even with small victories, Obinna's heart remained unsettled. At night, he lay awake, thinking of the city life he once dreamed of, the chance to trade, explore, and be free of heavy responsibilities. Now, every step he took carried the eyes of the community. Every word he spoke was measured. His friends had drifted away, and his quiet laughter under the Irako tree was gone. One night, Obinna sat alone under the stars and whispered, "I never wanted this life. I just wanted to be ordinary." The burden of being heir pressed heavily on him. Part of him longed to run away from the village, to leave the weight of tradition behind. Yet another part of him felt tied to his people, unable to abandon them. His greatest battle was not with the voices around him, but with the conflict inside his own heart. One morning, the village woke to troubling news. The only school in the community had closed because the roof had collapsed during a heavy rainstorm. The children now wandered the streets, and worried parents gathered in frustration. The elders argued over who should take responsibility. Some said this should wait on the government to fix it. Others insisted the villagers must raise money themselves. The debate grew heated, and no agreement was reached. At last, all eyes turned to Obinna. Though his hands shook, he stood and spoke with calm authority. "If we wait for others to solve our problems, our children will lose precious time. Let us begin with what we have. Each family can contribute something small: money, wood, or labor. Together, we can rebuild the school." His words carried weight. For a moment, the square was silent. Then, one by one, the villagers nodded in agreement. Even those who had doubted him before offered their support. Within days, men and women worked hand in hand, and the school began to rise again. As Obinna watched the children return to class, laughter echoing in the air, he felt something shift inside him. This was not about tradition or duty anymore. This was about truly serving his people. Parents watched with relief, proud of what they had achieved together. For the first time, Obinna felt the entire community look at him not just as the heir, but as a true leader. People began to greet him warmly in the market. Farmers stopped to shake his hand. Mothers blessed him as he walked by. Even those who once mocked him now spoke with respect. But the greatest change was within Obinna himself. Standing in front of the repaired school, he realized leadership was not about titles or crowns. It was about action. He had faced doubt, and now he had proven to himself and others that he could bring change. That evening, sitting outside his home, he said to his mother, "I used to feel this burden was too heavy, but now I see it is my strength." Mama Ifioma smiled, her eyes glistening. "My son, the people follow you because you serve them. That is true leadership. Obinna walked taller after that day, not because tradition demanded it, but because he had discovered his own power. The day came when the elders gathered the entire community in the village square. The talking drums echoed, and the people stood in eager anticipation. Obinna was called forward. He wore a simple but neat traditional attire, nothing flashy, yet he carried himself with quiet dignity. An elder stood beside him and declared, "This young man has been tested. He has faced disputes, doubts, and fear, but he has proven himself with wisdom, fairness, and courage. Today, we accept him not only as heir by tradition, but as leader by merit." The crowd erupted in applause. Even those who once doubted bowed their heads in respect. Obinna felt the weight of leadership, but this time it did not crush him. It gave him strength. He looked around at the faces of his people and thought, "This crown is not mine alone. It belongs to all of us." As weeks turned into months, Obinna grew fully into his new role. He worked with elders to improve farming methods, supported traders in the market, and encouraged the education of young children in the village. His leadership brought peace and unity. He never forgot his humble beginnings. Each evening, he still walked through the same dusty paths, greeting his people with warmth. He listened to their struggles and promised to serve them with fairness. One quiet evening, as he stood with his mother watching the sun set over the palm trees, she whispered with tears in her eyes, "You have carried the burden well, my son, and now it has become your strength." Obinna smiled, his heart full. He finally understood that destiny had not stolen his life. It had shaped it into something greater than he ever imagined. The boy who once dreamed of escaping the village had now become the man who gave it hope. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories.